This story is based on reports sent in by our subscribers and edited by me. The names have been changed to protect anonymity. If you would like your story to be told here, feel free to contact us. We would be delighted to hear from you. Subscribe to the channel and don't forget to like. So, let's get started. Ever since I was little, I've always been restless. I grew up with parents who gave me everything they could, but I wanted more. I wanted my own money, my freedom, my own story. While my friends dreamed of Prince Charming or a big 15th birthday party, I dreamed of a well-stocked bank account and my name on a company badge, the kind you wear around your neck like a trophy. As soon as I turned 18, I started handing out resumes like someone scattering seeds to the wind, hoping to harvest something. The problem was that every job opening had the same obstacle: experience. And how can you get started if no one gives you that first chance? It was like trying to open a door that only unlocks from the inside. After so many unsuccessful attempts and a few tears swallowed into my pillow, I decided to try a manicure course. I thought maybe that was it, that my talent was hiding there. But the very first class was enough for me to realize that I had good hands for many things, just not for drawing flowers on nails. And look, my hands have already received compliments in other contexts, if you know what I mean. That's when Thais, my longtime friend, showed up like a kind of unusual angel. She sent me a message late in the afternoon. "My friend, I need someone to take care of Matthias and my grandfather during the day. Would you be up for it?" At the time I hesitated. I've never been very good with children or the elderly, but the urgency in her tone made me say yes before I even thought twice. The next day, there I was, backpack on my shoulders, knocking on Thai's door. A simple but welcoming house, with the smell of freshly ground coffee and rugs that seemed to hold stories. She greeted me with a tight hug, the kind that warms you more than the morning sun. "Don't worry, Matthias is an angel, and grandfather is just a chatterbox." Matthew, in fact, was a sweetheart. It only took us half an hour of playing with cars before we already had our own vocabulary of inside jokes. As for Mr. Antonio, well, he seemed like the typical retired grandfather, the kind of person who tells old stories and watches the same news 3 times a day. The first few days unfolded in an almost cinematic piece. Matthias laughed easily, and Antonio spent most of his time sitting on the porch with a battery-powered radio and dreamy eyes. Sometimes he would make funny remarks about the neighbor across the street or about how the world had changed. But I noticed something else between the lines, a particular attention to my steps, my gestures, my neckline, maybe. At first I thought it was just my imagination. You see, my shorts were too tight. You know, I bent down strategically, even without meaning to. But soon the glances started to last longer than what was acceptable. A compliment here, a compliment there. You have a smile that lights up the room, you know that? Always accompanied by that tone that skirts the line between charm and boldness. Yet I admit, it started to stir something different in me. It wasn't fear or discomfort. It was a kind of silent game where every word had more than one meaning. And I didn't look away. In a way, I started to return their gaze, not out of obligation, but out of pure curiosity. One afternoon, as I handed him a cup of tea, his hand brushed lightly against mine, a silly and innocent touch, but it burned my skin like fire. His eyes held mine for a few seconds, and he said something that made me raise an eyebrow. "You have warm hands, hands that convey life and other sensations, if you know what I mean." I gave a sly smile without saying a word. I slowly walked away, letting him see the subtle sway of my hips. Part of me was amused by it. It was dangerous, but not really wrong. Or was it? The next day, Thais sent me a different message. "My friend, I'll have to sleep outside because of an event. Can you spend the night here with Mateus?" My answer came before any doubt. Something inside me already knew that this night would be special. I accepted Theis's request with that familiar feeling of butterflies in my stomach. Something inside me, maybe instinct, maybe pure mischief, was whispering that this night wouldn't just be about putting Matthias to bed. When she left, she gave me a grateful smile and a gentle warning. "Don't worry, my grandfather will be in his room soon. He's a sweetheart, but he talks too much. If he says something silly, just ignore him." I laughed shyly, but inside my thoughts were different. What if I didn't want to ignore him? After putting Mate to bed, with a short story, a glass of water and one last check on his pillow, I walked slowly and almost silently down the stairs. The house was shrouded in darkness. The lights in the room were dim and yellowish, giving the space an almost overly intimate atmosphere. Monsieur Antonio was there, sitting in the armchair, the top 2 buttons of his shirt undone, glasses perched on the tip of his nose, and a book that, honestly, he didn't seem to be reading. When he saw me, he smiled with that look I was beginning to recognize, a mix of admiration and intent. "Good evening, beautiful lady," he said, without taking his eyes off me. "Alone in this house now, huh? That's dangerous." I slowly crossed my arms, knowing that the movement lifted my shirt a little, maybe even more than it should have. But honestly, it was no longer unintentional. Why dangerous? What could happen here? I teased him with a playful smile. He slowly closed the book, as if every one of his movements carried a hidden meaning. With such a lively woman walking around, the whole house changes. The air gets warmer. Thoughts do too, if you know what I mean. That sentence had a different impact. It gave me goosebumps, as if every word he spoke went straight down my spine. I sat down on the couch, close enough to catch his scent, something woody, mixed with a hint of coffee and old stories. "I understand, Mr. Antonio. Sometimes you can feel there's something in the air." My voice was lower, almost a whisper. For a few seconds, we just looked at each other. The silence between us wasn't uncomfortable. It was charged, tense, elastic, like a thread about to snap, and I didn't want it to break. I wanted it to stretch as far as possible, until it became something tangible. He was the first to move. He lightly touched my hand, a simple gesture, but with a warmth that went right through my skin. His thumb slowly slid across the back of my hand, and his eyes didn't ask for permission. They simply waited. "You have something special. It's not just beauty, it's presence. It's the kind of thing that reminds us we're still alive, even when our bodies can no longer keep up with us." I sighed deeply. I could pull away, I could stand up and say it was late, that I needed to sleep, that I was tired. But the truth is, I wasn't tired. And for the first time in a long while, I felt seen. "And you, Mr. Antonio, have you always been like this with women?" I asked in a defiant tone. He let out a low, hoarse laugh that sent a chill down my spine. "I was worse. These days I think things through more carefully. But I admit that when I see a woman like you, my head still spins, if you know what I mean. Smile, a smile full of hidden intentions." That's when he leaned in a little, and his hand, now bolder, touched my knee. I felt his fingers slowly moving upward, as if tracing a forbidden path, yet wanted, very much wanted. I closed my eyes for a moment, feeling the energy of that touch. It wasn't vulgar. It was firm, confident, like someone who knows exactly how far he can go, and goes anyway. "I think we understand each other better than it seems," I murmured, feeling my breath quicken. We stayed like that for a while. I'm simply exploring that fine line between what is allowed and what is forbidden. He came closer, and when his words brushed against my ear, a shiver ran over my entire skin. "You provoke me, and you don't even pretend not to know it. And what if I said that I like to tease? That maybe I came here with another intention?" He gently brushed my hair off my shoulder. His fingers touched as if they had a memory, as if they could draw memories onto my skin. In turn, I felt my body react to every approach, to every veiled suggestion. We found ourselves face to face again. We knew what was about to happen, but we savored the moment like a rare wine, unhurried yet thirsty. That's when he softly said, "This night will take my breath away again." And I, my heart pounding and my lips almost smiling, replied, "Then breathe deeply, because the night is only just beginning." That phrase from him, "The night will take my breath away again," spun inside me like a spark, ready to set everything ablaze. And when I answered, when I gave that clear signal, Ma, that the game was only just beginning, Ma, something changed in the air. The tension, which had previously been a thin line, now felt like a tight noose, wrapping around both of us. He slowly rose from the armchair. His movements were steady, even at his age. There was no hesitation in his eyes. There was the end, and I was far from wanting to back down. I took a step back and sat down on the couch, crossing my legs in a somewhat theatrical manner, fully aware of exactly what that gesture did to him. And as expected, he followed me with a lingering gaze that traveled over my thighs as if he were already undressing me from the inside. "You know the effect you have, don't you?" he asked, his voice lower and rougher. Maybe I just like playing with fire," I replied, leaning forward and letting my neckline do the talking. He laughed, but it was a restrained laugh, almost forced, as if he were holding back something inside him that was about to break free. Playing with fire can leave marks, the kind you feel for days, if you know what I mean. My whole body responded to that sentence. A heat spread between my legs, throbbing, pulsing, almost begging for more. It felt like even my thoughts were exuding desire. He moved closer, and this time, it wasn't just with his eyes. His hands moved closer to my face, touching my cheek with his fingertips, as if he were drawing a map before invading a territory. My heart was pounding, not out of fear, but out of anticipation. You feel like something forbidden, the kind you shouldn't even get close to, but still, you just can't resist. "So, are you going to come closer, or will you just keep imagining?" I didn't need to repeat myself. He sat down next to me, and suddenly his lips were far too close. His breath hit my skin like a warning, but instead of kissing me, he just brushed the corner of my mouth, as if testing my reaction. I closed my eyes and let out a sigh that gave everything away. Then he moved his lips to my neck, and there, in that space between my earlobe and my shoulder, he made himself at home. His tongue played slowly, his warm breath gave me goosebumps, and his hand, oh his hand, slid down my thigh, as if he were discovering an ancient path, but one full of secrets. "You like that, don't you?" he murmured, his fingers almost reaching the place where the heat was strongest. "I like it when someone knows what they're doing." He smiled against my skin. His caresses moved up and down in a hypnotic rhythm. My muscles tensed with every thrust, and my thoughts were already far beyond this room. The truth is, my mind was dancing between what was happening and what could still happen, and it was that delicious uncertainty that left me the most nervous. With his fingertips, he slid my blouse up by the hem, slowly, as if every inch revealed was a trophy. There was no rush, only intention. It was as if every gesture said, "I want you to feel everything, including the time it takes." And I did feel it. I felt the cold air on my exposed skin, the warmth of his hands spreading through my body, the contrast between the forbidden and the inevitable. I felt desire grow, build up, until it became impossible to ignore. Then he spoke, in a low, firm voice. "I'm not done with you yet. This night is going to be long, and I want to explore every detail of you until you beg me to stop or to keep going." I let out a shaky laugh, because deep down, I knew he was right. It wasn't going to stop there, not this either. I don't usually say this, Mr. Antonio, but I admit that today maybe I might make an exception. He slipped his hand inside my blouse, found my waist, and slowly moved upward, sending shivers through every part of my body. His gaze was fixed on mine, and there was something in it, something that said, "You won't forget this night." And I knew that I wouldn't, because in this house, in this room, at that moment, I wasn't just the girl who took care of his grandson and his grandfather. I was the woman he desired, the fantasy that had taken shape, the secret about to be lived. And so, between caresses, whispers, and silent promises, we let ourselves be carried away. The clock could keep ticking, the outside world could wait. Inside this house, there was only our bodies and everything they were about to discover together. I don't know at what moment I stopped being just myself. That night I felt as if my skin had caught fire, and every inch of my body responded to the silent commands of something more. Instinctive, as if my body spoke an ancient and fluid language made solely of desire. After his hand found its way inside my blouse, the remaining barriers fell, one by one, like buttons coming undone and dropping to the floor. The couch was no longer just a piece of living room furniture. It became a stage. It became an improvised bed. I witnessed a game that was no longer just about teasing. He pulled me firmly by the waist, settling me onto his lap as if I were the exact piece of the puzzle he needed to complete. And I went along. I fit right in. I shaped myself. I surrendered. The touch of our bodies was warm, almost feverish. Our mingled sighs echoed like a slow melody, playing softly in the silence of the sleeping house. "You have a dangerous taste," he murmured, sliding his lips over the space between my hands. "And you? You have hands that seem to have a memory. They know exactly where to go." He smiled with his lips against my skin, as if he enjoyed being challenged. His hands traveled slowly, but without haste, as if he was savoring every new curve he discovered. And I let him. More than that, I wanted him to. I wanted to be discovered, mapped, dominated. As he lay down, pulling me with him, I felt the weight of the moment sink into the cushions with us. There, in the middle of that room lit only by the timid glow of the television, our bodies spoke more than any words ever could. He unbuttoned my blouse slowly, like someone unwrapping a long-awaited gift. My breasts were exposed to his touch and gaze as he ran his fingers over them before lowering his face to taste me. His tongue circled around, playing, alternating between gentle caresses and firm sucking that made my spine arch with pleasure. "Do you like it when I do this?" he asked between two strokes of his tongue. "I like it a lot, but I'm still waiting to see what his hands can do, if you know what I mean." He understood and responded with action. One of his hands traveled down my stomach, stopping where the heat pulsed intensely, where the fabric no longer hid anything. His touch was precise, as if he had studied exactly the perfect spot to make me lose all sense of time. "You're so wet," he murmured, his fingers circling, pressing, teasing. "That's your fault. Ever since you looked at me like that the first time, I knew this was going to happen." My hips started moving involuntarily, seeking more of his touch. Every press, every glide of his fingers was a promise kept. And when he brought his mouth there, breaking all boundaries of restraint, I felt like I was on the edge of something new, something that was dismantling me and rebuilding me at the same time. His tongue was a slow, wet dance, and I was the stage. He knew how to use his mouth. Oh, you could tell. He alternated rhythm, intensity, temperature. He held me firmly by the thighs, making me feel open, exposed, surrendered. And I truly was. I whispered softly, trying to contain the sound out of respect for the house. But there were moments when pleasure struck like lightning, and I let it out, muffled, hot, urgent. My fingers tangled in his grey locks, pulling, guiding, pleading. "Don't stop. Please. Don't stop now." When he didn't stop, in that room with the television playing scenes I could no longer follow, my body trembled. Waves of pleasure coursed through me, as if they were sweet and intense jolts of a pleasure I had never felt before. He brought me to the edge calmly, and when I finally got there, It was as if I exploded in silence. I collapsed onto him, chest heaving, skin hot, heart pounding to the rhythm of a wild drum. And yet there was a glimmer in his eyes that said, "This isn't over yet." He held me from behind, pulling me against his chest, kissing my shoulder, his rough beard brushing against my neck. I could feel his body, firm, strong and warm, pressed against mine. And more than that, I could sense his arousal throbbing, insistent, hungry, waiting for its moment. And I knew that his time would come, and that the night still had much to offer. I can still hear the muffled sound of the television in the background, but it no longer competes with the sounds coming from the two of us. The muffled creaks of the leather sofa, the whispers caught between my teeth, and his sigh against the curve of my neck, make it feel as if the outside world has fallen silent, respecting what is happening within these four walls. His hands slowly moved down my body, as if he were drawing a secret map on me, tracing the path to a place that only he seemed to truly know. And I, eyes closed, felt every touch like a whispered confession. He was now behind me, pressed against my body, holding me with strong arms and even stronger intentions. The warmth of his chest against my back made my heart beat unevenly, and the hardness between us left me with no doubt about what was going to happen next, if you know what I mean. His hips began to move slowly, guiding me, making me follow the rhythm he chose. There was no urgency, there was no hesitation. Only the rhythmic beat of a desire that was now shouting loudly. "You drive me crazy like this," he murmured, his husky voice filling my ear with electricity. "And you know how to use every part of your body like an instrument. And me? Well, I more than agree, ready to play your melody." He laughed softly and bit my shoulder lightly. His laughter tasted of sin, and his touch tasted of redemption. And I no longer knew if I was losing myself or finding myself. His hand slipped under my underwear, and this time there was no more room for doubt. He held me firmly, with a possessiveness that made my skin tingle. Each thrust of his hips against mine was a muffled thunder, a controlled shock. I was panting, gripping the armrest of the couch like an anchor, because the rest of me was already floating, warm, wet, surrendered. He knew exactly when to speed up and when to stop. He played with my body like someone savoring a rare wine, slowly, with reverence and pleasure. And when I turned toward him, sat on his lap, and took control of the rhythm, it was as if the roles were reversed. But the dance continued. "Do you like it when I ride you like this?" I asked, my eyes locked on his, challenging him. "I love it, but I love even more the way you dominate me without even realizing it. You drive me crazy, if you know what I mean." He moved up and down with deliberately slow motions, as if each thrust was a provocation. I saw his gaze darken, his parted lips trying to catch his breath, his hands gripping my waist like someone holding on to a secret about to slip away. And there I was, in control, or at least pretending to be. The heat from our friction was so intense that I could have sworn there was steam between us. And the whispers that were once restrained now escaped freely, as if there was no longer any fear of being heard, seen, or judged. At this point, none of that mattered anymore. What we were experiencing fit neither rules nor fears. He pulled me into a wild kiss, mixing saliva, desire, and confession. He bit my lower lip as if to say, "You are mine." And maybe I really was. For this night, for this moment, for this madness, I was entirely his. The climax came like a wave, the kind that sweeps you away without warning, that drowns you before bringing you back to the surface. My muscles tightened around him, and I felt his whole body give in at the same time. Muffled whispers, ragged breaths, a mix of pleasure and relief. We stayed there for a time I can't measure. The world could have stopped right then, and I would still be nestled against his chest, listening to his heart beating like a peaceful drum after the war. He stroked my hair and I felt small, protected, and completely alive. If I told you I didn't want any more, I whispered, not having the courage to look at him, I would be lying. I wanted to. But what else? A smile. I didn't answer. Maybe I didn't even know myself. The night had not yet given way to dawn, but something had already changed. I don't know if it was within me. I don't know if it was within him. All I know is that there was a hidden urgency in the silence, something we had not yet experienced, something that perhaps should not, maybe even could not, be spoken. Because some stories do not end with a final period. They remain in reticence or in muffled sighs beneath a blanket. If you know what I mean. And that's all for today. This story is over, but if you click on the video above, you can find other stories like this one. Thank you to everyone who left a comment. Don't forget to like the channel and subscribe so you don't miss my next videos.